Hello, and welcome to another game development broadcast for Project CSK. As usual, of course, I am the creator of the project, and the online name that I go by is Des. We're going to continue working on the project today like we have been doing for quite a while now. And today is, it's going to be a bit interesting considering what I was previously working on. In addition to, I just updated to the newer version of Unity before this broadcast. So there's some things that are broken. And we'll get into that. I don't know what's broken, but we'll figure it out. Hey, Uzak, how are you doing today? Hope you're doing well. And hope you're staying cool. We had a couple of days that was extremely hot. Like, wow, I was not prepared for that. And this apartment that I'm in right now, this is the first summer I've been in here. And wow, it is cooking. Like during the peak of it, so it picks up at about 4 in the afternoon because of the angular rotation of the sun. And what happened is that at about 4 o'clock-ish, 4 in the afternoon, that's when the heat kicks in, and it kicks in so fast. And it's like sitting in an oven for 12 hours straight. My brain could barely function. I don't know if I slept or if I was walking around like a zombie all night trying not to bump into things in the dark. I don't know. It was just that, I don't know. I can't even really properly describe it, but it was it was not pleasant, let's just say. But we're going to have some cool days for a little while, so I need to be prepared for the next time now that I know that this apartment is like a toaster oven during the hot days. So I just got back from vacation at the tail end of the heat. Oh, well, that's great. Did you have a good time on your vacation? I know this is kind of vacation season, and it's definitely a good time to, since things are kind of winding down a little bit, of course, still be very careful, but get out there, have some fun, do whatever it is that you enjoy doing, right? In a safe manner, of course. But yeah, so that's kind of what happened to me. And then now I just updated to this new Unity version. 2022.1.6 F1. Previously, we were on 2021 point something. I don't even remember, but it was a 2021 version. I wanted to switch over because I like to stay up to date into not the alpha version, but to the beta versions of the Unity. I don't always like to use their LTS. The LTS is nice, but I was having bugs with it, right? So I want to see what the new 2022 version has. I know there's not really that many things that I will notice right off the bat, and there's a lot of functionality that always comes with the new version of Unity, and it takes time to learn it, and I'm still just kind of, learning a lot of things. I'm still relatively new to Unity, and it's going to take me a while. There's still a lot for me to learn. Let's put it that way. But yeah, so I just started this up, switched my project over to 2022, and I got a whack load of errors. So I'm not sure how to address some of those, but I got most of them. Then I had to close and reopen Unity. That took care of the rest of them. And then right now I'm on this one, and I hope it's just this one. It says no cloud project ID found for analytics. I don't have analytics enabled, so I'm not sure what this error message is implying exactly, but I don't think it's game breaking at this time. So I think I might just ignore it for now and then have a look at it a little bit later on. But what I was working on the weekend, though, before that heat, absolutely brutal heat. So I was working on a atlas map for all the textures that we're going to be using, and the purpose for that is to be able to render this. It took quite a bit of effort and stuff to just figure out to get to this point, and now we have an item on stage that you can see, this little pickup item. that was quite a bit of effort just to get that. But now that we have that, it's pretty cool. I'm flipped around. Okay, so now that we have, why does it not? Oh. I forget. Is it? Oh, that's what it is. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. When you switch over to a new version of Unity, a lot of things kind of revert, and you need to kind of get reoriented on how you have things kind of going. Anyway, so here is a pickup object, the very, very first one. And like I said, it took quite a while to figure out how to get this to kind of render. And this is rendering from a texture atlas, which is using the Unity sprite atlas. And then we're taking the sprite and then making it into a texture, which then can be applied to a 3D quad or surface, if you want to think of it that way. And that allows us to get the, I just got it to this point on the weekend before I called it for that day. So, and then I also did a bunch of, where's my a sprite? I did a bunch of pixel art as well. So here's what the new items kind of look like. Here's the bubbles. So what I did is I took the bubbles and I made them into pixels or pixel art. So we got all of our bubbles. These don't have any transparency. And then we got our items. So you'll notice that the items look different for sure. So we got our speed, movement speed. Before it was like a brown boot. I don't have it here right now. But so that this is the new graphic. It's not completed yet. This is the current iteration. Experience, jelly bean, shield, bag icon, popsicle, block, and the power up. And each one of these has their own bubble that it goes into. So this was the other thing that I was working on. And the way that it works is that the bubble is going to, so it's going to be like a layered sandwich almost. Where's my, oh, there it is. So the way that I drew it was in, so it's going to be in 3 layers. It's going to be the bottom layer is going to be the bubble, right? The middle layer is going to be the item or the icon of the pickup item. And then the top layer is going to be this thing just to extend on the highlights and to create a kind of a bit of a illusion to make it look like it's a bit more 3D-ish. And that'll come into play a bit more later on. But here's the finished product of the first one that's being displayed. So what we have is the icon in the middle. So if I was to separate these out, this would be the front. This would be the back, right? And then we have the icon in the middle of it. So by taking those and sandwiching them together, right, we get the bubble. And then of course we have a shadow caster. Where's our shadow caster? Layers. There it is. And there's our shadow caster, right? So you put all of the pieces together and you get yourself a nice little pickup object. The interesting thing though is I'm getting the image, and this was challenging because I searched quite a bit online to try to find an atlas of sort. And what I mean by atlas is, where's my project stuff? So over here inside of resources, atlas. Okay, so here's our atlas, right? So atlas is a collection of objects, and you put it into one graphic, right? So one texture, as it's called, right? Which is called an atlas because it contains all of them, right? So the idea is that because you combine all of them, right? Because all of them are combined, and you access it all from one location, this texture, this main texture, is rendered or loaded whatever only once, and it reduces the draw calls because you don't need to load a different image for every single one. Yes, your initial load would be that you have to load however big this is. So this is currently 256 by 256 pixels. But then because it's loaded, right, like to show this image, right, let me show you conceptually how that works. For those of you that know, of course you already know, but let me just show kind of how this works. So what we want is to go into the properties of the instance of the material. So what I'll do is I'll select the icon just for illustration purposes. And what we'll do is take that and just move it forward, right? So I'm going to show you here by double clicking the instance of the material. What we're using is the tiling and offset. So if I set this back to 0 and then set this to 1 and 1, right? So there's our whole atlas, right? That whole atlas that you saw. But because we only wanted to show one item, and in this case it was the power up icon, right? What we do is we set the pivot point and the offset so that it only shows, even though it's the whole image, but it's loaded into memory only once, and it reduces the draw calls significantly, and the result is way better performance, right? And yeah, so it's just a matter of figuring out how to calculate this from the sprite atlas to use it as a texture. So we can get the sprite, but if you load it just by itself, default, this is what you get, right? So then I had to figure out, and this was something that was challenging because no matter how much I searched online on YouTube and on all kinds of different areas of searching, I couldn't find the answer that I want. And I was really surprised that I couldn't find it. Instead, what people were doing, even on the Unity asset stores, they're going and making their own atlas. And I was like, why? Unity already has this built in. How can we make it work? Right? And I couldn't find it. I couldn't find the answer that I wanted. So then I sat there for quite a while, picking it apart and trying to make sense of it, of why is it not working? Because you need to change a sprite into a texture. But they're all, at its core, it's all really considered a texture or a graphic or whatever you want to think about. It's like this pixel has this value, this pixel has this value, this pixel has this value. That's what it is, right? You can call it a sprite, you can call it a texture, you can call it whatever you want, right? At its core, that's what it is, right? You just need to get access to that information. So Unity's built-in sprite atlas, right, is this that I just showed you, which is this object here. And it takes all of them, and like you can have multiple images, and it takes all of them and it just makes it nice and compact for you to be able to manage it. And you can take multiple graphics and it'll take all of them and it'll combine them into one atlas, right? Which is really awesome. So then what I needed to do is just figure out how do you convert, or first, how do you get the sprite out of the atlas, which is very, very easy because it's a sprite atlas. You just call the name and it gives it to you. But then that sprite, when you go to use it, this is what you get, right? Because the tiling and offset is not in being utilized in the way that you would think. I think what Unity is doing is they're going to have this functionality properly implemented sometime in the future, but it was like 95% complete, right? All they needed to do was do the extra 5% calculations to go the rest of the way. And that's what I needed to figure out, is how do you do those calculations? I couldn't find any resources online of how do you figure this out. And it took me, I would say, a good of trial and error and trying to figure stuff. It took me like a good 2-3 hours of just researching and seeing that other people just, no matter what I did, I couldn't find the solution online. So I had to come up with my own. So I went in and just took it apart as best as I could. And eventually I found that when you pull a sprite out of an atlas, you can get with it, the sprite, when it comes out of the atlas, you get this, right? So this is the whole thing. So instead of just the little sprite that we wanted, in this case, the fireball, what we're getting is the entire reference to the atlas. Okay, that's fine. But the other thing that it gives you, though, out of everything else, the only thing that it gives you is not clear initially, but it gives you the UV. The UV is 4 points, 4 vectors, meaning they have 4 positions of X and Y. And that gives you the 4 corners of the object of the sprite that you just pulled. Even though when you access the sprite, you're getting the full atlas, meaning all the graphics, with it comes the 4 corners of the image, the exact pinpoint position. So then what you need to do is take those 4 points and then calculate them and use the tiling and offset of the texture, apply it to the material, and what you get is this result. You get exactly the graphic that you want out of it. That took a really long time to figure out, and in the end, I'm quite pleased with how it turned out. And I couldn't believe that it's so simple of a concept, but I couldn't find the answer anywhere online. So I might even end up making a YouTube video out of it and just like do like, you know, like a 2-minute or 5-minute YouTube video and just toss it out there for the next person who's going to be searching for it, because that's pretty important to be able to use the Unity built-in sprite atlas. That means that all of those atlases and tools that people have been putting on the Unity asset store, I'm not saying I know all of their functionality in depth, but they're all trying to do the same thing that already exists within Unity. But I don't know where the disconnect is. Maybe I'm missing something. I don't know. But I was quite pleased with the solution that I got. But it's still not a complete solution, right? Because what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be taking this, I'm going to be making my own animator using my own state machine to make animations. And I haven't yet tested it with multiple graphics, which is something I'm going to be doing right now. And you'll get to see me test it out and see how this logic actually would really play out, and if there's maybe other stuff that needs to be figured out. But so far, so what we have in this atlas is, if we go to atlas and we just select it, its properties, it's pointing to this one folder, right? So this one points to this one. No, it's, oh, okay, I see. Instead of it pointing to here, okay, I'm just not used to this layout. Usually I have this up here, and then I have this down here. That's usually how I have it. I don't know, it's just my preference. Because when I'm not broadcasting, of course, I have a 4K monitor. Right now you only see one quadrant of it. And I utilize the full 4K resolution. There's more real estate space for all the tools and everything else. But for right now, this is okay for me. Okay, so this points to this one folder. In this folder, we have this. So this is our Sprite 2D that we're using. And if we go to Sprite Edit, and this is what I really like about it, is you can slice them up in whatever size that you want, in whatever naming convention that you want, and you just pull it by this name. This name, of course, needs to be unique because it's used to index it in the dictionary, and it's because of this that it gets you the 4 quadrants, or sorry, not quadrants, 4 points, the 4 corners of it. So what I want to do is I want to add a bit more complexity here. Right now we only have this one graphic here. So what I want to do ultimately is I want to bring in, so not this, but where's my environment? This, minus this, of course. So I want to use this. This is going to be one of the ones that I want to experiment with right now, because previously I wasn't able to do this, and as a result, because I couldn't figure out this, or I just didn't know it at the time, what I did is I ended up exporting all of them into their own individual graphic, like so, right? So each one of these is their own graphic, and I don't want this because you can see obviously why. Look at all this wasted space, right? So if this goes into a atlas, look at how much space is wasted. I want to narrow it down to just 1 pixel or maybe even 0, if I can even get away with that, to pack as much graphics as I can into one singular atlas. So then I can have monster size atlas for all the graphics and benefit the most from it, instead of having to have multiple atlases. At some point, likely I'll have multiple atlases. Like I might have one for UI and I'll have one for environment graphics and character models and all of that. But if I can put all of them into one, that would be really awesome. But either way, I'm quite pleased with discovering this, and I wanted to see how far I can take this. So these are all of the graphics that you see right now. They're being taken in. So the graphic is being taken in as a material. The material is, it's a texture that's then being applied to a material, and then that material is then being applied to the quad. There's a much simpler way by the method that I just showed you. So I have one prefab, right, that can do all of this stuff. So this is what we're going to do. So this one right here, I'm going to export this exactly as is. So this one will be pick up items. No. Is that what this one is called? I need to just double check. What did I open? Oh, pickup items was my last export. That's why it's called pickup items. Okay, so it's really environment. So we will call it environment sprite sheet. Okay, so then that will export it to where I would like for the graphic to go. I just want to open it and have a look at it, just to make sure we do have it. Environment sprite sheet, and so there's my environment sprite sheet, right? I'm going to bring this in. It's very odd shaped, and that's why it's perfect. It's because it's so odd shaped. I'm going to bring this in, and we're going to test out this theory and see if this this atlas idea of mine actually does work, or if there's still more stuff that I need to figure out. Because it might be that I will have to put all of them together manually into one big atlas, which is definitely undesirable, but I'm willing to experiment because I have the opportunity to do that. So let's experiment and see what we can come up with in terms of solutions. Because the idea of this is to achieve multiple things. One is performance, of course, ease of usability. And then after using Unity's animator and their animator state machine and the animator override, I think it is fantastic. It is feature rich. It is very, very user-friendly, and I don't want to use it at all, having used it. Because then you can't just swap out a sprite sheet. Let's say I want to change one character into another, right? You can't just swap out a sprite sheet via code, right? You have to go in and you have to make animations, or you can use their hack, which is to, so you have an animation or an animator, and then you have a animation or animator override, which then can go replace that. But you still need to do every single animation for every single direction, for every single action, right? Frame by frame. I don't want to do that, right? And then the other thing is that the other solution is to do a swap. So you have your animation, so you have your animator, and then you have a sprite sheet of sorts that you load, but then you use the late update. So it still loads the existing graphic, but on the late update, it overwrites that with another graphic. So that means that's extra memory, extra processing per frame, right? Per character, let's say you have one base prefab that you use for all your characters and pets and all of that stuff. So that you're basically looking at ×2, right? Not exactly, just a number I'm throwing out there. And I don't want to do that either. I've experimented with it in the past. I don't want that. I want something that's simple, something that I can show somebody and say, here's how you do the exporting. Here's the naming convention. Take this atlas, do this, and the code will just make it work. Sweet, right? That's exactly what I want, right? Ease of use with the performance gains. That does mean I have to make my own animation of sorts, which I already have in mind. It's going to be very simple, and a state machine, which is also going to be very simple, right? But I'm perfectly fine with experimenting with that kind of stuff, because that kind of stuff is the stuff that I like, because it gives me the opportunity to learn the inner workings, like under the hood, of how certain techniques work. How can I integrate it into Unity and all that stuff? So that's what we're going to be doing, and that's the direction I want to go with it, because I do not want to go back to using the Unity animator for this project. I'm not saying forever. I'm just saying for this project. If you're working on your own project, it might work really well for you. But for me, for this project, I want to learn, right? That's the goal of this. I do this as a hobby. I do this for fun. I want to learn. I want to experiment. I don't care if I make some mistakes along the way. That's fine. That's all part of the learning process, right? So anyway, let's try this. I'm really interested, and it's kind of been on the back of my mind. I really want to see this working. So let's go and drop into items. Instead of items, what we're going to do is we're going to create another folder, and I'm intentionally doing this, and we'll call this environment, right? And then inside of environment is where we're going to be tossing in a bunch of stuff later on. Oh, did I literally opened it and then I closed that folder. Just give me a sec. I just want to grab my thing that I just exported. Nope, that's not it. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so I'm just going to drag and drop that into here. Okay. So now you'll see me do what it is that I do. So we changed this from this to Sprite 2D and UI, because that gives you access to the multiple. I don't know how else to get access to this, which is why I think Unity's still working on it. And that's why I said it's 95% there, because you should be able to do this with other stuff, but you just can't. So what I want to do is definitely go point no filter, because it is pixel art. And then this, I want it to be the equivalent smallest size that it's going to be, right? So this one I think was like something 800. Want to set quality compression to none. Apply that. And I think that's it. I just want to make sure that resolution-wise, yeah. So it's 818 by 800, very oddball resolution. But that's okay, and that's what makes it perfect. But because it is now a multiple, right? We can go into Sprite Editor, and what we can do is we can start making these kinds of. So eventually, of course, I'll come in and I'll rename them. But for right now, I'm just kind of whatever. I just want to see if this works, right? And then I'll come back and I'll rename these. So now we have 4 pieces sliced out, right? I'm going to hit apply, right? So now those 4 pieces are part of this. Everything else is currently excluded, and that's okay. Not a big deal, right? So what I want to do is I want to go back to my atlas. So this atlas here, currently we have items. So of course there's multiple ways of doing this, but you can just grab your folder and drag it up here. We're on the right screen. Yeah. Okay. So now we got items and we got environment. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say pack preview. It should be named better. It really should. But it just means pack everything and update the atlas. Okay. So here's our new atlas. It contains oops. It contains the new items that I sliced into there. So now it is 2 different sprite sheets sliced in together, right? To make this. Thank you for the follow, Roche Hunter, and welcome to the broadcast. So what I'm going to be doing is now I want to see if that logic still works, and I can use Unity's 2D sprite atlas as a texture atlas with the current code that I've done. So this is going to be the interesting part, is whether this works or fails. And this is kind of the moment of truth of me spending my entire, well, not my entire weekend, but a good chunk of my weekend, of my spare time, should I say, to be able to make this. So let's see. What happens when we run? Do we get the correct objects assembled together, or does it fail? And it worked. It worked. That is so cool. That is so cool. Okay, so that means that you can use Unity's 2D Sprite Atlas as a texture atlas if you get the sprite out of the Sprite Atlas and then use the UV coordinates to set the tiling and offset and scale. You can do that. That is so cool. So then that means also what I'm going to be merging into here is not just this stuff. What's this? This is my little project, let's just say, that I like to work on. This is the beginning of something amazing, and it's going to be fun. Short answer, multiplayer game. I'm porting it over from Flash to Unity to be cross-platform. It'll work on pretty much anything Unity can export to. And it's going to work on, it's going to take inputs of touchscreen, game controller, and mouse and keyboard all at the same time. So you can alternate in between them, meaning you can play this on any device as long as it meets the minimum requirements to be able to run it. So it's going to be awesome. It's going to be really cool. It's going to be awesome. Okay, so Candy Sugar Kingdom. Yes, thank you, Uzak. That is the name of the project. But if you go to the website, though, it's pretty old. At some point, I will update it. But this is the successor to the Flash client. This will be pretty cool. I'm really looking forward to this, actually. Okay, so now that this worked, that means that we can get all the benefits and performance enhancements of the, I really should make a video about this and put it on YouTube, because I saw so many other people asking the same questions, but no one that I came across had the answer. But the answer is so simple once you understand how to get to the right information. I'm really tempted to make a tutorial video. Okay, anyway though, so because that works, then that means that I don't need to do this, which I had done before. What I'll do is I will keep the naming convention, of course. So this whole folder, all of these, right? Every single one of these is now inside of the sprite sheet, and now is going to be a part of the atlas. So I just need to follow this naming convention to get the results that that we want. I'm not going to do that in broadcast, just because this is going to be kind of time consuming, and I may want to make some modifications and whatnot. But for right now, I think that's pretty good. That I'm really happy with that, the outcome. So what we can do though is we can continue with the development of the pickup item, and then yeah, because right now when we synchronize with the server, right, the environment is dynamically created based on what the server gives us, but what we don't get is the pickup items. What I'll do is I'll run the local server, and then I'll put in a couple of test accounts, and then we'll get it working. For those of you that are new, hello and welcome to the broadcast. If you're not familiar with the project, as Yuzak mentioned, this is Candy Sugar Kingdom. It's an old project of mine that I've been working on for a very long time, and it's something that I'll be working on for quite some time still. Sorry, one sec. So this is the old Flash client. What I want to do is I want to allow login members, allow login guests. Okay. So with that, we'll create a room. We'll make a classic room, 8 players. Okay. Definitely want to mute that. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is just stack some more, and I'll just use guests because they're easier to just load them in there. Okay. So there's our game room. So what I want to do is let's just quickly log in just to make sure that, because I did update to the new version of Unity 2022.1.6 F1, I want to make sure that I can still log in. So resolution needs to be scalable. Landscape. Okay. We'll change scene. Okay, and we'll join the game room. Okay, so what we need to do is these guys need to KO. Okay, and then we'll get a new level built. Oh, I didn't remove my test stuff, did I? I have one test object, so this pickup item, you can just ignore that. So what's happening though is we're all going to be in there. So that's 4 players. That's synchronized. Okay. But when I go destroy stuff, right, the pickup objects will not appear. And that's what I want to address. Okay. So you can see on the Flash client, there's a pickup object right here in this area. But in the Unity client, it's not there. We do have the synchronization packets. I just want to also make sure that there's no errors. Okay, so we have 1 error, 2 errors. Okay, so we have 2 errors I need to look at. Guild component. Interesting. I was not expecting that to give me an error at this time, but okay. So guild component. Oops. Line 2, 3, 4. Oh, I see. Oh, it's because the guests, right? They don't have guild rank. Interesting. Okay, so it's crashing because this object is null, so therefore this is failing. So that should be a simple fix, actually, if because I haven't tested it properly with guests, because I primarily, like, I don't think guests are even going to exist anymore in the new version. Just because it's not the same. You can just easily just create an account and log in. So if guild rank equals null, then that means it's guest accounts will cause an error. Okay. So that should fix that. I'm not sure what the other error was, but I'll take a look at that as well. Oh, I need to, okay. We'll need to restart. So anyway, like I was saying, this is a project that I've been working on for quite a while, and it's something that I work on in my spare time, and it's a really good opportunity for me to exercise a skill set that I don't use in my day-to-day life, right? I meant to get rid of that. Let me just get rid of that real quick. So pick up item, gone. So it's a skill set that I don't really, oh, I need to get rid of that too. Okay, whatever, we'll leave that. It's a skill set I don't really use that often. So on my own time, I do like to utilize it because it's, there's the Unity physics doing some weird stuff. It's kind of funny. I fully plan on doing some really funny stuff when we get to that point. Okay. So I just want to see if we have any errors again. This is a project that it's been really good for learning. Okay, so I guess both those errors must have been the same thing. Because it makes sense, because we have multiple guests. Okay, yeah, I don't see any errors of any sort. Okay, so I think we're good. The only error is this Unity one with the no cloud project ID that I don't care about right now. Okay, what we want is to be able to see pickup objects, meaning we need to be able to create pickup objects, which we have that functionality now. So if we go into, not here, but where was Game Room? Did I not have it bookmarked? Okay, so that's the explode environment map. Okay, so maybe I didn't. Okay, so here's my test stuff. Okay. Did I don't think I did. No, I didn't add a functionality for pickup items. Sorry, I didn't quite complete that functionality. Okay, so that's where we need to continue from. So what we need to say is we have indestructible, we got destructible, we got game room bomb, and then we should have, so category, pickup items. Are we using it? No, we're not using it anywhere. Okay, so that's our continuation point right there. I just want to make sure. Okay, so create destructible, create game room bomb. Okay. 2D dynamic object. So that's our generic prefab basically. Okay, category destroyable explosive. Okay, so yeah, we need to add pickup. That means I still don't have a 2D dictionary, so we're going to add another one here, and this one is going to be dictionary pickup items. And we'll do the same thing. Later on, I'm going to make all of this a lot more versatile. It's environment object category dot pickup item. But for right now, I'm just going to hard code this stuff just because it's easier to do right now. And then later on, I'll clean it up. So we got destroyable, explosive, indestructible, animate and recycle object. Oh yeah, okay. We need to be able to remove stuff for sure. I don't have my object pool system working yet in this version, but I will. What did I miss? Oh. Eventually I'll get the object pool system working as well. These look identical. But for right now, we'll just use it as is. Okay, so we'll just keep going. Okay, that's fine. And then now this is the creation function. Okay, so we need to make a creation function. Yeah, we need a creation function to be able to dynamically create it, because before that was just me hard coding some parameters when I was doing that testing of the texture atlas, as I like to call it. Even though it's the sprite atlas, it's really I'm using it as a texture atlas, and it works very well. Okay then. So yeah, what we need to do is follow the same logic. Create, remove, create. Oh, create pillars. Oh, multiple. Okay. Multiple. Game room bomb. Okay. So we'll add it pretty much here. I'll just bookmark that real quick. Okay, so we're going to do the same idea, I believe, as... I don't remember how the packet is structured that comes in. I don't know if it's singular or multiple, but let's actually have a look at the packet coming in first. That way we'll know how to better structure it. I think that makes sense. So we'll go in, and then it'll be pickup objects. Oh, plural. Okay, so we'll need to do multiples then. I wonder if I have this anywhere. Okay, so I'm listening for it there. Goes to here. Pick up objects. Okay, great. So I already have the logic. It's just a matter of taking the information and applying it. So it'll be a multiple. It comes in as a multiple. It gets split. And then from here, we can call environment map dot create pickup objects, or actually just object, I think. Yeah, just object. And then we're going to passing in ID, type, and then row and column. So that functionality, of course, doesn't exist yet, but it will very soon. Don't care. Ground cubes, I'll clean that up later. Model data, we'll leave it. That will leave it. Game room manager. Yeah, I don't think we need that right now. Okay, so what we have been doing is we've been passing in, so we pass in ID, we pass in type, and then we pass in position as a vector to int. Okay, so let's do that. So we go to create this function. We'll say public void, our function name, and we'll follow the same ID or same concept. So we'll have ID, it'll be type, and then it will be vector to int for position start, as it's called. Okay, so yeah, it'll be object ID. It'll be object type and new vector to int. I don't remember if it's columns or rows first. I always get that mixed up. So I'll need to look at one of these other ones and see. 2 is not helpful. Okay, so it's column, then row. Okay. That definitely helps. It'll be object, column, then object, row. What did I do wrong? Oh, nothing. Okay, so it just needed to catch up a little bit. Okay, so that will call our function. This is all legacy stuff, but that's okay. So that will call this function, and then from here, we can go ahead and make it. So what I'll do is I'll copy the same as probably the bomb, just because it's so similar. Okay, so this is going to be, actually this is going to be different. Yeah, this one's going to be different. It's not going to work exactly the same. I think we'll need to approach it differently. Okay, but some of this stuff still applies. So environment object category, instead of explosive, it will be pickup item. Type primary. Okay, so right from here, it basically deviates. Because we don't have, no, this is environment visual stuff. So from that to here, so from that point, it deviates. So what do we need to do to be able to call this function, though? Because this function kind of does quite a bit for us. I wonder if we can pass in null. Probably not. So we pass in, we have key ID. We have position start, and we got that. What we don't have is the other stuff. Type primary, type secondary, object size. Because this is going to be pickup items. They don't necessarily have that. I'm just trying to think. I might need to make a another function. Yeah, because you'll need to use the naming convention to put the object together. But then we need one for pickup items. Yeah, I think we do need to branch. Because I don't want to jam all of it in into this one function, because it'll just end up getting cluttered. And sometimes it's beneficial to have one function that can do everything, but not when it gets too cluttered. So what I would like to do is have another function that will do similar to this, but it'll be specifically for pickup items. I think that makes more sense because pickup items and environment objects do not follow the same naming conventions. They're very different. So it doesn't make sense to try to merge the two, even though they still in the end create the same object. The way they set the parameters and the parameters they take, it doesn't really make sense. So let's do that. So what we'll do is we'll just take this whole, no thank you, I don't need to update right now. We'll take that whole function and we'll create a variation of it. So this variation it will take int item ID, or we can call it pickup item ID. Let's call it pickup item ID for now, just because it's more clear, right? So we'll still pass in that. We'll pass that in for sure. Pickup item ID, variation ID. I think there's a type in there somewhere. I'm not sure what that type is, but let's keep that in there too. I think type might be variation ID. I don't know what type is. What is type? I don't really know. Okay, I'll just put it in here for now. I think type might be variation ID, just under a different name, because this is really old code. But we'll see. This might be the same as variation ID. If it is, remove this entry. Okay, so we have the parameters that we'll pass in. And then, so where's the errors coming in from? The name, of course. So type primary, type secondary, object size, variation ID. So all of that stuff is now going to be done a bit different. So this will be pickup item, variation ID, and then key ID. Yeah, because I don't know. Oh, I also want to add in pickup item. Let's go pickup item ID. Yeah, I think that's better. Pickup item ID plus that. Yeah, I think that makes more sense. So pickup item ID, then variation ID, then the key ID. This is just for naming, just so we can easily identify what's what. And then position is fine. Type primary and all of this stuff. So this is no longer needed. This logic here is no longer used in this way. So we need to take this out update visual appearance. So we'll set parameters. We'll call update visual appearance. And then we will store it in the dictionary. Dictionary, pick up items, add, and then it'll be the key ID. And then the dynamic object. Okay, so yeah, this function looks way different than what it did before. And it'll continue to change too. Because then there's going to be item rarity and other types of things later on, because this will be the same function that's used in the world when you do combat with pets and creatures, and then you get drops of items, equipment, quest items, and all of that stuff. It'll still use this function, right? So we definitely want this function to be versatile. Like, there's no way I could have, well, I could have, but it wouldn't have been a good idea to merge these two. So really, it makes sense to actually rename this entirely. So create 2D dynamic object will now be create 2D dynamic, create 2D dynamic object instead of dynamic object. It's no longer versatile in that sense. It is now a pickup object. Why did it jump when I saved? That was so strange. It just, you guys saw that, right? It just jumped to a different position, which I find very strange when I saved. I didn't press anything. It just jumped. That was a little strange. Okay. Anyway, so with that, I think we can call the function, but it's still not completed. We need to pass in the parameters. So we need to pass in excuse me. So we need to pass in pickup item ID, rarity, and other params. For sure, we'll be passing in pickup item ID, rarity, and other stuff will be optional. And then we'll call update appearance, and it will assemble itself depending on the provided parameters. So it's not ready yet. However, we can call this. So where's our bookmark that, oh no, I have a bunch of bookmarks. Okay, let's remove some of these. So there's my pickup item. We're going to call the function, and it's going to take ID. It's going to take position start. Oh. I think we're missing something here. Pickup item ID. We have ID and we have type. What is? I think type is pickup item ID. Oh wow. It's the naming convention, right? Like, this is a 10-year-old code that I'm digging through, right? And trying to make sense of it. So what I think type is, so ID would be the unique ID. Type would then be the item, what the item is, the ID of the item. But this is a unique ID granted by the server that would represent the instance of this object. And then we have type ID is kind of what I'm thinking. There's only one way to really find out, and that's just to test output it. Actually, let's do that, because I'm taking a bit of a guess here. Let's confirm that. Right now, will anything crash if we... I don't think so. Let's see. what I do want to do is enable this. So we should have ID, type is object type, row, and then column. Yeah. So let's just test that real quick on a quick item drop. And then that should give us the answer that we're looking for. Okay, so just need to destroy something. We have ID number 5 and 7. 5 is what and 7 is what? Yeah, I think that's what it is. And then the unique IDs. Okay, so that is what it is. So let's fix that. Okay, so object ID is the unique ID. So this would be the, we'll call it the UID, I guess. Yeah, we'll call this the UID. So this will be the UID, and UID will be the key. That's fine. And then the type is now going to be the pickup object. No, it'll be item ID. It's item ID. Okay, so there we go. Now we got that sorted out. I was wondering about that. It was kind of in the back of my mind, but I just wasn't sure. Okay, so pickup ID is going to be item ID. I should change that from pickup item ID just to item ID. And then the type, I have no idea what the type is. Oh, okay, never mind. We do know what the type is. And then what we're going to be passing in is a variation ID. Okay, so we're going to change that function actually. So type, now we know, is pickup item ID. Pickup item ID is now going to be item ID. Variation ID, we'll give it a default value of 0 just because I'm not using it right now, but I'll probably use it later on. So we don't need to actually pass that in. Okay, so now this should work. It doesn't like... Oh, it's because it's expecting... Okay. And we made all of these into a string. So then the key, right, because it's going to be a complex key, and we're passing in an int. Okay, so this needs to be a string. So that means from here, the UID does not need to be changed from a string to an integer, so it'll remain. UID is going to be string. Okay. All right, so that brings us back to here. Now that we got that, how do we get the object to take shape, right? Because this right now, this will create it. Did we add the destroy? I don't think we did. Let's do that first, because I know if I don't do it, I'll forget it. So we have create pickup object. Let's call, was it recycle or remove? Oh, animate and recycle object. Oh, okay. So then we can just use this. That's fine. Then we should have, what was that other one? I had a cleanup function to just kind of remove everything, I think. There we go. Yeah, we need one of these. So remove pickup objects. Or it should really be remove remove all pickup items. I think that makes a bit more sense. And then we'll do the same thing as up here. So we'll do a for each key value pair environment dynamic object. Then the dictionary will be dictionary pickup items. And then in the end, we will clear that. Then we're going to put that right where this is. That's in our clear round. Okay, it has a perfect spot. Okay, so we have that. What we need, let's jump to our bookmark. Nope, not that bookmark. This one. Bookmarks are so good. Highly recommend using them. Okay, so from here, there isn't really much we can do in this function, but we'll leave this in just in case I need to hook other logic into it. So we call this function. This sets this one parameter that doesn't even get used. Wait, we don't even use that? We should be using this. We should be using this. Because we're going to use it, I think, for the object pool as well, to help us index stuff. So I'll put it in the same spot as the other one, just so it's there. Okay, so we set that. This leaves us some room to make some stuff happen. Key ID, I guess we're not really using that because it's already coming to us as a string. So we're just going to pass in UID directly. And then at this point, what we need to do, okay, so the next step is to pass in the appropriate values. I think we are using this one. Or are we? Nope. So that's just used for dictionary. Okay, that's fine. We'll need to pass in item ID and rarity. Yeah. Item ID and rarity, and then we're almost at the point where it can be displayed. Little bit longer, and then it can be displayed, hopefully. I'm just trying to think if I overlooked anything in the process. There's a chance that I might have overlooked something, but I think it should also be okay, because if anything was overlooked, it'll probably give me an error, and then I'll handle it at that point. But for right now, I'm not going to be too concerned about that. So let's set the parameters. Let's pass it in. So what we're going to be doing is calling environment dynamic object, just like how we do, appearance properties. What is that? I totally forgot about that. Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, we don't use that for this object. So we're not going to use environment object wait, we can totally use that. We can totally use that. Because all this is just data. And then if I use this, then that means I can also do some test stuff just by dropping blocks on the stage and using the inspector, instead of only being able to achieve it through code. Yeah, let's do that. So we'll follow this structure. I think we already have it here. Yeah. So appearance properties. So what we're going to be passing in is item ID. Nope. Item ID equals item ID. And then appearance properties dot rarity. It should really be item rarity. Oh, do I not have that? No, I do not. Okay, so I won't try to add that in just yet. We'll keep it simple. Okay, so that means we need item ID. So item ID, we will expose it as a serialized field, private int item ID, default value of -1, and then control RE to encapsulate it into a getter and setter. I still don't like the way that this does it. I just don't. Oh, I don't need to actually do any logic here. Okay, so we just need to be able to set it. And we need to be able to set... No, I guess that's it. So then from there, what we do is we call update appearance. And then update appearance will do... Yeah, so this is the logic that I need to... This is all hard-coded. I haven't got around to make, like, look at this. It's just a giant switch statement. I want to, of course, take this and make it dynamic and clean it up. But for right now, I've just been just dumping stuff in here because I'm working on the naming convention too, like, and the variation IDs and all of that stuff. So it needs a little bit of cleanup for sure. But when we call this, what I want to do is I want to check... and I want to get the appearance properties dot item ID if appearance properties dot item ID greater than -1. And this is temporary, of course. That would mean that if it's greater than -1, and because item IDs start from 0, I believe, or 1 or whatever, but if it's -1, that means it's the default value, it's not set. But if it is greater than -1, then that means this is an item and should be displayed as an item. Okay. Again, this will get cleaned up later, of course, but for right now, I just want to be able to display it. So if it gets to this point, then what we can do, it should be a environment dynamic object is now a pickup item object. Oh. Did I just completely overlook this detail? I think I just completely overlooked this detail. Oh, really? Yeah, I did. Minor detail, and by minor, I mean not so minor. So this stuff, I don't think I'll be using any of that logic. The recycled stuff is definitely good. So then what I want to do is this class, I want it to extend from environment dynamic object maybe, because it has the appearance property, shadow. Shadow collider, sprite animator. Okay, so that'll be replaced later when we switch over to using the texture atlas. This is the current way that they're being rendered, using a sprite sheet and a shader. Okay, so I totally forgot about that. So it's not the same object. Can we make it the same object? Because what do we really need from this? Oh, we got all the bouncy stuff. Yeah, no, I remember now. Okay, no, I do want some of this logic. So what we'll do then is maybe how can we make that work? I think I want to combine some of this logic. Because if we combine some of this logic, then I can get the benefits of both, potentially. Because we're not using Box Collider 2D. This is old logic, right? So Box Collider 2D is totally replaced with the collider, which is basically a rectangle or a mesh, if you want to think of it that way. Because I know I did all this bouncy logic stuff that I liked, actually. It was really good, like visually aesthetic. I spent quite a bit of time on it too, to give it that nice bouncy logic. And then I added in particle effects, and I gave it its collider for being able to be picked up. So there's definitely some differences here. The question is, how can we salvage it? Because really what it comes down to is this extends from environment object. So do we need environment object? Environment object, images, shadows, container primary, layer, object pool. Yeah, we do need that. A visible index creation order. I don't really remember that. I vaguely do. So then we got all the recycled stuff. So this stuff can actually be moved into the dynamic object, and that way everyone can benefit from this logic. And I need to clean up that huge switch statement, because there really isn't much in here minus that huge switch statement. This is pretty plain, but very specific to the new way that we're going to be doing it. So what I'm thinking then is I will take this, merge that into this for all the stuff that's of value, and then from this class, yeah, so this class will extend from mono behavior, and then this, instead of extending from environment object, it'll extend from environment dynamic object. Yeah. That's what I'll do. Okay then, so I just need to get all the good stuff out of here and bring it into here. So the question is, what do we need and what don't we need? That's a good question. So everything that's image, shadow, container, layer, image. Yeah, I don't think actually we really need any of this minus animation property curve. We definitely need that. So I can bring in animation property curve. That's really the only thing I see that we need. Okay, and then, oh yeah, of course, the object pool system, right? I haven't put anything yet into the object pool. So let's actually bring those in anticipation of future usage, because we're going to be using that object pool system. ID, I don't know what that is. Not sure. Theme, tile set, variation, environment, object type. We have all of that inside of this nested class. So we're using this system now using enums. Coroutines for recycle, animation, coroutine delayed animation intro. Those, yeah, I think we could, oops, we could bring those in. Nope. I'm just not sure when I'm going to use that logic, so I'll leave it disabled for now. Environment object type. No. Pool, yes. Visible, yes. I definitely want these. So let's bring those in. Okay. Is obstruction. We're definitely going to need that later. For when we... Yeah, we're going to need that logic later. So obstruction, definitely. Okay, theme, tile set, variation ID, don't care right now. On destroy. Okay, so on destroy, we want to definitely clean up some stuff. So does this have any destroy stuff? Doesn't look like it. Okay, so on destroy, it looks like we're mostly just disabling the coroutines, which are not yet enabled. So I will just leave that there for future usage again. So visibility changed, visibility changed. Okay, yeah, we definitely need that. Okay, and then recycle, for sure, we will need that for the recycle system. That will be added much later. But doesn't work yet, so we can't do it. Animate and remove, animate and recycle. Yes, of course. Both of those. Assemble structure. We already have that, I believe. We called it, what did we call it? Update appearance or something. Update appearance. Yeah, so we already have that. Okay, and then there's the animation related stuff that I don't want to get into the animator stuff at this time. That's for later. So I'll need to definitely come back to that stuff and reference this class. But what I want to do is I want to just deviate away from it. creation order, coroutine, coroutine. That's not even being used. Sprite change, we're not using sprites. We're going to be using the texture atlas. Set shadow, same idea. Change animation state explosion. We're not using the animator anymore. Yeah, okay. I think we got enough out of it that we can probably deviate away from this. So when we go to here and change it from that to this, there might be some errors. So we have start. We're using start here as well. So we should be saying base.start, shouldn't we? I thought that's how. Private void start. Oh, okay. It'll need to be protected virtual. Protected, or is it public? I forget. I forget. So it would be public virtual void start. And then over here, what we would do is say public override void start, and then call base.start. Okay. So then that means we need to do the same for the destroy. There's a bunch of errors. Okay, I'll take care of them after. Yeah, okay, so we need to do the same for the destroy. Public virtual void on destroy. I just want to make sure that it cleans up properly, really, is what I'm going for here. So public override void on destroy, and it automatically calls on or base on destroy, which is perfect. Okay, so we got a bunch of errors we need to deal with. So let's have a look at those. What are they? Oh, I already got on destroy. Clear collider delay enabled. Interesting. What is this? On destroy. Okay, so let's move that into the on destroy. So we can take that out. What's the other one? This one. Pickup ID. So this is on pickup. What we need to do is, oh, okay, so this is using on 2D collision. Okay, I'll need to clean that up. Right now I'm not too worried about it. So let's just disable this then. And then set sprite, no, definitely not. And then set sprite, okay. So this stuff is changed. Pickup item type changed. Pickup item type changed. Oh. Didn't we put that in here though? Nope. Okay, I'm getting confused now. Pickup item object. we set it in here maybe? Yeah, we set item ID. Okay, so that means that item ID probably shouldn't be here. Because if this is a dynamic object, then that means item ID has no business being here because it's specific to pickup. Okay? So then this should give us a error message of sort. Where was that? Oh, I should have bookmarked it. I really forget sometimes to bookmark the important stuff because there's some stuff that's really important that should be bookmarked so you can jump back to it again, and then I keep forgetting and I keep saying it and then I keep forgetting. Yeah. Okay, so let's see. So if we removed item ID from here, then that means on creation, so this fails. That means this is no longer an environment dynamic object. It is a pickup item object. So it got completely changed to this. So that means our dictionary is now this. Let's see, does that change anything? It definitely does. So this doesn't work on... Oh, this isn't even supposed to be in here. We moved this over to the other function. I was wondering what was going on there. Okay, so we moved that. So then this should have... Instead of setting this here, what we're going to be doing is setting it directly instead of get component environment object. We're going to be getting pickup item object. So pickup item object, and then we can still access it because it extends from that base class. We can still do this, and we can still do that. Okay, and then we have an error here at the bottom. Okay, so that looks getting closer. Just when you think you're almost there, there's so much more to go. I just want to get it to display. That's all I want to do. Well, of course I want to do a little bit more than that, but still, I mean, you get the idea. Okay, let's see. So what I want to do is I need to address, okay, let's address some of these errors actually, because there's a bunch of these. And they're probably really simple and easy to fix. Okay, so appearance is no longer being used in this way. Oh. Okay. So what we can do here then because appearance is going to go a different path entirely for a pickup object than it is here. So let's do this then. We'll make it a public virtual void. I keep spelling that wrong. Public virtual void, okay? And then over here, we will override it. Public override void, what was that function name? Update appearance. Nope, don't want to call base. Do stuff. That's pretty descriptive right there. Okay, so when we call do stuff, because if it's being overridden, then that means you don't want it to do whatever this is going to do. But we still have access to all of this stuff. It's just that this needs to be cleaned up later anyway, and we'll get there. So that should address, sorry, I forgot what screen I was on. That should address that. So we have something that's missing. What is this? iPullable object is missing an interface. Oh. Okay. That means that over here on environment objects, we forgot that. And we want to add that to environment dynamic object. Absolutely, because it's going to use the object pool system. So iPullable object. And let's see if that gives us any error messages. Okay, cannot convert type int to string. Of course not. That's a simple fix. Okay, so what's the next one? ID is not accessible. What does that mean? ID is not accessible. Really? Pickup item object does not have ID? I thought it did. Oh, yeah. Layered tile map. No, we're not using that. This is old logic, and we're stepping away from this. So this can basically go like this. Return null. Okay. Okay, so we're clear of errors, which is good, but we still haven't created the object yet. We did all of that, and we still haven't created the object. So when we get to this point, let's follow that path of logic again. Okay, so when we get to this point, we call create object or pickup object. We set all the right parameters, all the offset stuff. I know it's working right from before. Appearance properties, we don't use that right now. But what we do want to set, though, is we do want to set the, what's it called? Item ID. Yeah, so we want to set item ID equals item ID. And then when we set item ID, so it'll store it here. And then at this point, when we call update appearance, the override should override this one, so it doesn't call this, and it just calls this. So we're almost there. Debug.log, generic functions dot format text color. I just want to output something that really stands out, and we'll call it generic functions dot format text. Nope, not what I meant to do. I want to make it a color. Let's go with something that's soft blue, and we'll say item ID. Item ID. Why do we have item ID and pickup item ID? What's the difference? Pickup item type and pickup item ID. I don't actually know what the difference is. Do we actually use both? I don't know. Update appearance. Okay, so this is our new function. Pickup item type changed. Interesting. Okay, so let's have a look at pickup item type. 0 calls. Oh, pickup item type can be loot. Item world pickup loot. Or this, okay. That's a little bit confusing. I'm not sure what that's doing. I'll need to figure that out and clean it up, because that's not very helpful. Keep in mind, this is really, really old code, right? So it's quite the journey to go back and look at something that you've done so long ago and then try and make sense of it, right? And then try to clean it up. That's a challenge in itself. Okay, I just wanted to display. So there's definitely a conflict between these two. It seems like they're both doing the same thing, or maybe they're doing something different. I'm not really sure. So let's ignore the conflict for now and get something to display. So what I want is from this point, when we call update appearance. So update appearance, we're going to use item ID because we're using item ID here. I don't care if there's a conflict. So we should see this output here, item ID. We should see a whole bunch of these. Okay, so let's go ahead and run it. Oh, there was an error. I didn't realize that. Oh, okay, so maybe it's gone. I don't know, we'll see. Okay, we'll go into the game room. Let's go destroy something. Not what I was expecting. I didn't get that output that I wanted. Okay, let's see if there's any errors actually. There we go. So what does this say? Environment map 427. 427. Pick up item appearance properties. Oh. So it doesn't have appearance properties? That's a bit strange. What is appearance properties? Appearance properties is a serialized field. That shouldn't be null, or should it? What I need to look at is pick up item. Nope. What am I looking for here? Prefabs environment 2.5D. Yeah, pick up item. Oh. So everything is null, and appearance properties is there. This is all legacy stuff. So that's going to be switched over, which is fine. Animation property curve, not too concerned. Box collider 2D, don't really care. But why did that come out null though? That's what's interesting. Maybe this didn't come out null and it's this that came out null. But then because I'm accessing a property of this and it was null at this point, yeah, that makes more sense actually. So that means this failed. So environment map object, what is game object? Instantiate prefab environment object to, oh, yeah, that's going to fail. So this is prefab environment object 2D. What we need is prefab environment pickup object. That's what we need. Yeah, because it's a completely different object. It's not the same, even though it extends from the same base class and functionality. It's not. Okay, so we need to set this reference then. That's what happened. So we'll go to map. We need to set this one to pick up item. Okay, let's try that again. It's still not going to display properly yet, but it will. I just want to be able to get to the point where it can, do we have anything on screen? We do. This should have output a bunch of stuff. I guess not. I don't think my override function is working correctly because we should have seen a bunch of blue. Nope, there it is. Okay. So yeah, my override function is working. Okay, so we're getting closer. I know I keep saying that, but we're getting closer to being able to render the objects correctly. Right now, we're just seeing the prefab, They're not all the same object, of course. They are different objects, and that's the goal, is we want to show them correctly. Okay, so how do we make it display correctly? We need to call two functions. One is to change the icon. One is to change the sphere, the pickup bubble that's inside of it. So change icon, change bubble that object is within. Okay, so to change the icon, that should be easy. We should just call the appropriate name, and it should grab it out of the atlas. Okay, so we need to fix the atlas to make sure that the IDs and the naming convention matches. So let's do that. Yeah. So what we'll do is we'll go to the atlas and we'll make sure that everything is named correctly for the bubbles. So let's see. We will go with, how did I do it before though? I think I did a switch statement before. Didn't I? Yeah, I did. There's my switch statement. I see. So I used the switch statement to set the graphic and to set the bubble. This was the old way of doing it, and it's still kind of the same, actually. But now we're just going to be using a little bit different logic. I could probably do the switch statement. I'm not sure. I'd rather not, though. I'd rather it being not hard-coded like this. And then if we have a pickup item, we change it to the item ID. And then we change it to the appropriate bubble. And we're going to have different bubbles. Okay, so this information needs to be dynamic. Later, not right now. For right now, we're running low on time. And what I really want to do is just be able to display the right graphics. So I'm going to take a shortcut. I'm going to take the shortcut, but first let's start with the atlas. We need to do our texture atlas, which is really the sprite atlas used as a texture atlas, and it's awesome that it works. I'm quite pleased with that still. So let's go into items, pick up items, and let's edit this. So we'll go sprite editor. That's not what I meant to do. There we go. Okay, so sprite editor, and then I'm looking at this thing right next to me to see naming convention. So these are of course not the right names, right? Because this is how the atlas is going to access it, is by this dictionary name. So what we need is a unique naming convention. What's my naming convention for the other stuff, though? I wonder. Because I want to kind of keep it consistent, but at the same time, I don't know if I want to do this whole long-winded, that's not what I wanted. Yeah, this kind of naming convention. 0000 cube block size, and then the variation ID. Maybe I do. I don't know. I think I'll borrow from this, but not right now. For right now, let's go with the quick and dirty because I want to define these parameters correctly in the way that it would apply to the pickup items themselves, because the pickup items are going to follow the structure of the naming convention, but each one of these entries is going to represent something different. So let's type it out actually and see what does it look like. So we will go, what we need is the item ID. So that will be the probably the last piece. It's going to be called pickup item somewhere in there, just to kind of have it differentiate somehow. And then there's going to be a variation ID. And then, yeah, I think that's it for now. Pickup item, variation ID, item ID. I think that's it for now. Let's go with that for now. So it will be pickup item underscore variation ID will leave at 0, and the item ID is going to define the ID of the, oh, I need to know what they are. Right here. Item world pickup loot. Yeah, I don't know about that one. Okay, so let's go with the first one. So this is actually the first one, so it has 0. So I'll copy the name, and then number, actually it's ID 1. Okay, so then next one is experience. Whoops, I didn't mean to move it. Experience is ID 2. Jelly bean is ID 3. Shield is next. Bag following that one. And then speed increase is 7. Then popsicle. And then the block. Okay, so that's our naming convention. So with our naming convention now, okay, so it'll be that plus item ID. So that'll give us this. So that should change the actual graphic inside. Let's have a look at that and see that in action. Of course, we'll need to go to our Atlas, because I don't believe, I could be wrong, but I don't believe the Atlas rebuilds after you make a change like that. So you need to go back into it and tell it to repack. I could be wrong, but either way, I'm going to manually tell it. So we'll go Atlas, preview and repack. Okay. So if we run this then, the bubble will still not be correct, but the graphic inside should be correct to what you see. Or not. Okay, so that didn't work. Sprite Atlas does not contain string texture name, pickup item 8, 7, and so on. So it failed. But why did it fail though? So what it's saying is that the items atlas, basically that's exactly it. It doesn't have it. Okay. So where did we go wrong? Something somewhere was overlooked. And what was it? I wonder. Did I forget to save the changes? I think I did. Here. And then I changed these, pick up item and all of that. No, that should have worked. Wait, no, I did. Oh, I did forget to save the changes. I did all that and I forgot to save the changes. Okay. I'm a little sad, but okay. I just did that. Okay. Here we go again. This time we'll save the changes. Okay, from that to experience is number 2, Jelly Bean. Number 3, not 32, Shield. Number 4, Bag. Number 5, Speed. Number 7, Popsicle. Number 8. And then the last one being Block. Okay, and then this time we save the changes. Let's try that again. Okay, and no. So what happened this time? It's still looking for the old name. Why though? Oh, okay, so on start, okay, that's not supposed to be there. On start, we will disable those for testing only. Okay, so that was a mistake. That's where some of the errors were coming from. And then what was happening here? Did we forget to repack the Atlas? I think I did. So Atlas, pack preview. Okay, let's go back to our graphic. I just want to make sure again that those changes saved. Okay, so the change is saved. Okay, let's try it again and see. I'm not sure. I think it could be that I forgot to repack the atlas. That could be it. Okay. I don't see any errors. We have no items. So let's go and make one. Oh, okay. Well, there we go. It's still not working. It's not crashing, but it's not working. Okay. Change texture icon. So go to the atlas. So this is the old code that was kind of working. Let's simplify it first. Let's just make sure it's working before we try to do that many objects at once. So let's go back to the test. Because I have a feeling there's something really obvious that's being missed. Okay, so that's going to be our test item right there. Okay, so that's our test item. We will enable this for testing. We want it to be, let's go with item number 3. Okay, so when we run it, this should load, in theory. There's 2 errors. What is this? Collider is serialized twice. Oh, is it? Collider is box collider. And then collider is collider. Okay, so that's definitely not okay. Let's take out a box collider. We will not be using box collider. I'm just going to take all of this out just to eliminate as much stuff as I can for now. Okay. So let's see. Does that change shape? It does not. Pick up item 0 minus 1. Oh. Okay, so that's not correct. Pick up item 0 minus 1. Whoops. We call update appearance at what point? Not from anywhere. But it's called from somewhere. Ah, yes. On start, it calls update appearance. Okay, so on start, it calls update appearance. So how can we test that then? I had an idea of how to test it, but then I totally forgot. Whoops. It's because it's reaching, oh, it's definitely past that time. That's why I'm not thinking clearly right now. My logic definitely fades, or my capability to do logic definitely fades near end of night. And it's definitely end of night for me. Let's see, can we salvage this though? Okay, so when it gets to this point, update appearance. I don't know if I can salvage this tonight. Okay, so from there to there. Change texture icon is called from pickup item objects. That's called from here on the start. And this one calls it on start. Okay, let's go with what was item ID? Let's go and set item ID. Okay, let's try that again. Okay, so we're kind of back to where we were almost. But I don't think it's going to work in the game room still. But I want to test it though. So we go here. Test it here. There should have been a bunch that was made. Okay, so they all default to that. Oh, right. I'm overwriting it to ID 3. Okay. Yeah. No, I don't think I can do this tonight. I'm just not thinking clearly right now. I need some good rest, and then I'll come back to it and I'll get it working. But it's kind of working. Like you can see that the direction of where it's going, and we're slowly getting there. And not too long from now, it will properly show the correct items inside of the bubbles. So it'll look good when it gets to that point. But I think I need to just get some good rest, and I'll have another go at it hopefully tomorrow if I get a chance. But if not, I'll make some more time. But for those of you that are here, thank you for watching. You can show your support by hitting that like button on Twitch, on YouTube, wherever you like to watch it. And you're welcome to join the community. What I'd like to do is I would like to do some gameplay sessions with the old Flash client periodically, like I mentioned in a dev journal. There hasn't really been too much interest in terms of people getting back to me about that, but I think I still want to try it and see if there's enough interest, then I'd like to do it periodically because I think it could be really fun. And then eventually we'll start using the new Unity client when it's playable. We're not quite there yet, of course, but the game rooms I think are definitely going to be playable well before, or actually I know they'll be playable well before the game world is going to be playable. So what my idea is kind of that we could start playing periodically, like let's say once a month. I'll organize something on Discord or through the forum or whichever, or both. I'll probably use the event system in Discord. It's not great, but I think it's still okay. But we'll see. Just to see, if we can get more people playing together, because playing in a game room is really fun. And then eventually we'll be able to play in the world as well with the new cross-platform client. But in terms of today, that's going to be it for me today. So if you like this content, please show your support by hitting that like and follow button. And the next broadcast will be on Friday. I do broadcasts on Tuesdays and Fridays, pretty much on the same schedule. If you happen to miss any of them, they're indexed onto YouTube. You can just go skim through them and see what I was working on, the topics that I covered, and any of the other stuff that came up. But that's going to be it for me today. So thank you for watching. Have a great evening, and I'll see you next time.